kind of talk a little bit about the health situation that we have going on, but also gave me leeway to talk a little Bible also as I chose. So I just kind of asked the Lord to lead me on this thing. So it's going to be a very short talk on health, on this COVID stuff that's going around, primarily. So first I'd like to have a word of prayer with you, because we won't be doing any singing. I won't torture you with any of that. And we'll pray, and then we'll talk. Okay? Heavenly Father, I do thank you for this opportunity to come together with my brothers and sisters over the internet, and just ask that you guide my words, my thoughts tonight. Let me speak only those things which you would have me say. And Lord, make them clear to those that listen, and make your message clear, Lord. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, there are a couple of quick passages I'd like to refer you to in the Bible. First two are in Job. So Job chapter 7. Job chapter 7. And Job chapter 7 in the first verse says, "Is there not an appointed time to man upon the earth? Are not his days also like the days of an hireling?" And those are questions, but clearly the implied answer is that, yeah, there is an appointed time to man on the earth. That's what that sounds like the implied answer is to that question. Then if you turn over to Job 14, you get a similar question. In Job 14 and verse 5 says, "Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass." Again, those two passages sound to me like God has assigned us a certain number of days to live on this earth. We may not know them, but we have them assigned. I get a lot of comfort in those verses, because it takes the worry from me as to how long I'm going to be around. I know that whatever it is, it's been determined by the Lord, and he's going to take care of that. What I don't know about is, what my state of health may be up until whatever that ultimate day is. But I know that day is apparently pre-chosen. Now, that's Old Testament. I understand that. That's Old Testament dispensation. However, I don't see anything in the epistles of Paul or anywhere in the New Testament that supersedes or overrides that concept. So I have to assume that since I don't see anything that would override that, the principle is still in effect. If not, I'm going to go by it anyway, because I don't see anything to cause me to change it. And again, since it provides me with comfort, I'm going to utilize that. I'm going to claim that, if you will. There aren't a lot of passages on how we should eat and things like that, and there are lots of passages in that Old Testament about certain healthy practices, as we know. Many of them seem to be strictly from the religious standpoint, but clearly a lot of them have to do with overall health. There's an interesting passage in Ecclesiastes, though, that I'd like you to take a look at. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. And as soon as I can find it here, Ecclesiastes 12. And if you look at starting with verse 16, oh, that doesn't look right. Can't be 16. Nope, that's not the one. So I don't have that. Anyway, it's the passage that, there's a passage in there that talks about, woe to the nation whose princes eat in the morning. It's 10:16. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child and thy princes eat in the morning. Blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of the nobles, and thy princes eat in due season for strength and not for drunkenness. And I always look at that, and it kind of reminds me of the principle of intermittent fasting that I talk about all the time. As you know, one of the things that I do teach is intermittent fasting, where the main meal is consumed in the evening, and minimal amount of food is eaten during the day. Anyway, I just kind of like that passage for obvious reasons. This whole COVID thing has everybody concerned, and it's understandable. Whatever this COVID thing is, and I don't claim to have all the answers on it, but it does seem to be different than most flus. The biggest difference between this flu and most flus is the pneumonia that you can get with this flu. You can get a pneumonia with virtually any flu. The difference appears to be what happens in what part of the blood vessel, the vascular tree, the action takes place. And here's what I mean. With the pneumonias that you get with flus very often, you get a little kind of clumping of some of the red cells in the blood vessels. In most of the flus, that occurs in the sort of like the medium-sized blood vessels. So the fact that some of the red cells might form clumps doesn't usually seriously interfere with the breathing of the person that's got it. Now we're talking about it in an otherwise healthy individual. I'm not talking about somebody that's very old or has other kind of morbidity, other kinds of sicknesses going on. I'm talking about in a typical young or middle-aged person, because that's the thing that makes this particular flu scary, is that there are middle-aged, healthy people that are sometimes getting this flu and dying from it. And that's no joke, and that's nothing to poo-poo or to just kind of pass off. That is as serious as it gets, especially if it's somebody that's a loved one of yours. So why? We didn't see that. We haven't seen that with the other many flus that have occurred certainly over my lifetime, the swine flu and the Hong Kong flu and the bird flu and all these others. Very seldom would an otherwise healthy, younger, middle-aged person even get the pneumonia, and if they did, it almost was never fatal. So that's a difference. And I think the difference is with this one is the clumping of these little blood vessels occurs with this particular flu way out at the end of the vascular tree, right close to what's called the capillaries, which is where the oxygen is exchanged in the lung. And because of that location, if the oxygen can't really get exchanged, then you have a serious problem. And that appears to be the reason, for example, that the ventilators were a failure for the most part with this flu, because they don't help when that little clotting is way out at the end of the vessel, like that. So that makes this dangerous. That makes it much more dangerous, the pneumonia part of this thing, than the normal type of flu. I think in most other ways it's on par with a lot of other flus, but that's a potential problem. The only thing that I've been really thinking about and that I've asked the Lord to do to kind of lead me on is just making the recommendations as to to how to try to deal with it, the best things to do for our health. You know, you will find that my recommendations for this are going to be similar to my recommendations for any kind of condition, because I look at sickness or health really kind of like a target. This bullseye in the middle is good health. And no matter where you are, you're trying to get to that point, to that point of that bullseye, that point of good health. So you may be further away from that than others. You may be out here. That could be a very serious disease. You might just have some minor health problems and be over here. You know, you might be way out here and have a disease that's practically killing you. But no matter where you are, you're trying to get to the same point, and that is to a point of good health. So it's going to take basically the same types of treatment, of self-treatment, to keep your health up, to get yourself back into a healthy state for the most part. So, you know, when I have somebody call that has some kind of health problem, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference what it is as far as the basic things, because we're trying to get everybody back to that bullseye, to the center of that target. Now, most of you have talked to me, and I've talked to several of you about what I think is the causes of various diseases, and I blame the causes primarily on toxins of one type or another. And when we talk about toxins, they can be different things. And it doesn't make any difference whether we're talking about some sort of infectious disease like the flu, or whether we're talking about cancers, or whether we're talking about anything else. I think that the heart, the unifying principle of these diseases is toxins of some type. Now, what are toxins? Toxins are poisons of a type. Not the kind usually that you take some and you drop dead, but things that damage the body, usually over a long period of time, sometimes a very long period of time. And most people, whether they agree with that theory or not, certainly do agree that what goes into your body is going to affect your health a lot. Some of the main toxins, for example, are what I call fake foods and food ingredients. Probably the worst of them is table sugar. That is a super processed food that has no nutrition in it, and can only really do harm to the body. Also artificial sweeteners, I would put in that, food additives and coloring and flavoring and MSG, preservatives, processed white table salt even. These kinds of things, the more processed any food is, the less healthy it is for you. And if you're trying to get yourself healthy, if you're trying to improve your health, you want to keep those things down to a minimum. Also, there are trans fats. These are these fats that are either, you know, kind of like artificial, or they're made from grossly overheating fats, things like that. Genetically modified foods of all type. You know, once you start messing with the DNA of food, you're getting into an area, I think, that is God's area, not man's area to play around with. There are, of course, plenty of natural toxins, natural poisons, lead, mercury, arsenic, uranium, pesticides of all types, especially the glyphosate, which is the Roundup pesticide. You know, America's about the only country left that's where Roundup is still legal to use. But these are types of things, and remember, these toxins are things that you can get into your body different ways. They can be things that you ingest with your food, that you drink with your water, in the air that you breathe, and they can be in the electromagnetic fields or around various things, anything that can be damaging to the body like that, and they get in different ways, and they manifest themselves in different ways. If you eat toxin, you tend to get gastrointestinal problems, you know, the nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and things like that. When we breathe in toxins, if you happen to be in an area where the air is very toxic, thick with whatever, then you could have obviously breathing problems of some type, you know, whether it's, you know, if you're working in a mine and it's a black lung disease, or whether you know, it's something that causes chronic bronchitis, can cause pneumonia, can cause sinus problems, but those are the kinds of things from things that we breathe. Water we drink can cause all kinds of problems within the body. Of course, the silent one is the electromagnetic fields. They're all around us, and they're more and more around us all the time that we don't notice and have a hard time measuring. One of the most, I think, dangerous forms of the electromagnetic fields is the 5G technology. I don't know how many of you have phones with 5G, but if you do and you want to keep the phones, certainly I would advise not sleeping with them. Turn them off when you go to bed and put them some distance away from your own body. We have Wi-Fi and all kinds of things all over the place. You know, you want to try to subject your body to those kinds of forces as little as possible. If you buy like I did, I bought Connie a printer the other day, and of course, all the printers advertise, they brag about how the fact that they're, you know, cordless, but you can hardwire these things too. And that's what I did with her printer, yet not trying to tell you that we have everything hardwired in the house, because we don't. We have Wi-Fi, like a lot of people, and some other things like that. And you just have to try to be careful with those things. We'll talk a little more about that in a minute. Again, the air we breathe, you know, the government has admitted that there are particulates in those chemtrails, that they are comprised of things like aluminum and barium particles. They say for the purposes of blocking global warming, but you can look online and see what those kinds of particles do to human lungs, and they're not very good. There's all kinds of emissions coming out of vehicles, of course. And interesting, I read that even the hydrogen vehicles that they're talking about do give off emissions that are not good. It's impossible to stay away from all this stuff. I'm not trying to tell you that you should try. I'm just trying to tell you, just beware of these kinds of things. Do what you can and keep your body as healthy and resistant to that kind of stuff as possible. The body looks at virtually all medications as being toxins of one type or another, especially vaccines. Now, I know a lot of people are scrambling to get vaccines right now, and I'm not telling you not to. I think if the Lord is leading you to get vaccinated, you should do it. If the Lord leads you to take a medicine or anything like that, you should do it. He's the great physician. Not me, for sure. And so if whatever the Lord leads you to, if he's guiding you and you feel like he wants you to get the vaccination or any other kind of meds or take whatever kind of medications, then you should do it. You should do it. Poor sanitation, which includes polluted water and things like that, that's a source of heavy toxins. There's in the foods, there's bad forms of estrogen. Those are toxins in and of themselves. Most soy in the country today is GMO, genetically modified, and even that's not genetically modified contains a bad form of estrogen most of it, which is not good for men or women. The exception to that is miso. And a lot of you know what miso soup is and things like that. That is a good form of soy because it's fermented. Other bad forms of soy include licorice and black cohosh, red clover, and things like that. Another food which contains a lot of these bad form of estrogen, believe it or not, is beer. So hopefully we don't have beer drinkers here at the church, but it is one of the reasons that beer does the damage that it does to people's health is because of that bad form of estrogen that it contains. And something that's not directly a toxin but is associated with it is stress. Stress can be very toxic to the body. Worry. That's why, again, we have an advantage over non-believers. We have God and His book, and we can rely on it, we can stand on it, we can believe it, and the more we're able to trust in what God says and what God tells us and the assurances that we have from Him, the less stressful our lives should be. That doesn't mean your lives should automatically be stress-free. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying you've got an advantage that the world doesn't have. You know, you've got a book where God talks to you and tells you the things He wants you to do and the things that you should do. And the more you do them and the closer your relationship with Him, the less stress you should have. Now, by the way, all stress is not bad. Short-term stress is actually good for you. Whether it's physical, like those of you that I've talked to about exercises and things like that, you know that I like what's called anaerobic exercises. Those are exercises that are short duration, hard. If they involve weights, they involve heavier weights, but only using them for a short period of time, and an overall short workout. Even mental stresses and other stresses, when they're short-term, are good for you. It's like doing puzzles or taking a test even, things like that. Those kinds of stresses are actually good for you. They build your mind, they make you more alert, things like that. So stress itself isn't always bad, but chronic stress is. And that brings in another aspect of the emotional side, and that is the concept of placebo. Most people have heard of placebo or the placebo effect, and that is the effect, the belief that if you believe something will make you better, it might just do that. That's a short definition of placebo. Now, there's a term that's similar to that that I had never heard of, that was never taught to me, that most doctors I know never heard of, which is called nocebo, the nocebo effect. And turns out that is a medical term too, but you never see it. Well, what is the nocebo? It's kind of the opposite of the placebo effect. The nocebo effect, to put it in a nutshell, is something like this. If you are afraid of something making you sick, you'll probably be all right. But if you truly believe that something will make you sick, it can do that. And I know in my own life that explained a lot of things. When I was a kid, my mother used to tell me all the time, during the winter time, if you play in the floor in a draft, you'll catch a cold. And sure enough, 100% of the time, when I played in the floor in the draft, I caught a cold. And then after years of that, because I kept a cold, I had a cold a month during the winter at least. But after a certain period of time, as I was kind of getting a little bit older, I figured out, you know what, this shouldn't be like this. Just playing down in that draft shouldn't cause me to get a cold. And from that day on, it never did. There are a lot of things in life where we see this nocebo effect take place. But it is apparently, it's real in the annals of medicine. It's just that we don't see much of it. So what all kinds of things can we do then to help improve our health and help us to be able to resist these sicknesses, not just this COVID thing, but a bunch of different things. And again, this is something very interesting too, that I did see. There's a video that's going around. A couple of members of the church have seen, and one that sent it to me, and it showed red blood cells, normal, healthy red blood cells in a person, and it showed they were nice and spaced like this. You know, red blood cells, it's important for them to practice social distancing, and they were doing that. Then it said after that person had just 200 milligrams of sugar, they tested them again, and the cells were clumping up like this. That's a bad situation. Now, does that mean that person had COVID? No, your cells, anytime your red blood cells try to clump up like this, that's an unhealthy sign. So anything that would cause them to clump up like that is not good. So sugar can do that. I've seen experiments where electromagnetic forces, especially 5G, did that same thing to the cells. Anything which causes those red cells to clump up like that means that they lose their protective halo and they cannot socially distance anymore in your bloodstream, and that's not good. So we need to try to avoid or minimize those kinds of toxins. We need to try to treat our body, to do things that help our body to detox. One of the best natural detoxes your body has is heat, is fever. So a lot of times we will treat a fever as soon as we get one, but sometimes that's counterproductive. That's your body, that heat is trying to get rid of toxins, so you have to be careful with that. You want to have a diet that's high in good quality fats, low in carbs, especially to try to have no simple carbs or processed carbs, because no matter what you're trying to do, your body is healthier when it can use fats for fuel rather than carbs. Obviously, you want to have clean, healthy foods that you eat. You'd like them to be organic or wild grown, or at least locally grown, things like that. You want to have clean, pure water. There's all kinds of water. There are good brands out there. There's artesian waters like Fiji water and things. There's high mountain spring waters. There's the deuterium depleted water, the low deuterium water, which we won't get into much tonight, but the glacial water like Icelandic. There's various kinds of filters which remove things from the water that shouldn't be in there, like the main ones being fluoride and chlorine. You want to try to filter those things out of your water before you actually get to the drinking part. And of course, people talk about supplements. I'm getting less and less enamored with regular kinds of supplements for the most part, because I think that your real health comes from food, real food, not from some pill. There are some supplemental type things, though, that I think are really hard to beat. And one of them is, as most of you know, is the cod liver oil. Cod liver oil contains the at least 3 of the 4 fat-soluble vitamins, D, E, and A. All cod liver oil contains those 3. Some of it contains also, it comes either in a butter or involved with some other fat that comes in with the oil, and that also contains vitamin K2, which is the 4th of the fat-soluble vitamins. So when you take cod liver oil, you're getting at least 3 of the 4 fat-soluble vitamins, possibly all 4, and you get plenty of omega-3. Omega-3 fatty acids, you need that. That's one of the 2 essential fatty acids that you have to get from outside. Your body can't make them. That means there's only one other essential fatty acid that you need, and that's omega-6. And the way to get that is from, best way to get that, I think, is from seeds. You get it from hemp seeds or chia seeds. You could, on a short-term basis, even get them from flax seeds that you have to be sure you grind up, things like that. But that takes care of all your fat-soluble stuff. And of course, you get a lot of the other nutrients in the healthy fats, which includes, of course, eggs as a basic. It includes things like avocados and nuts of almost any type. There's plenty of good nutrition in all of those things. And it doesn't have to just be cod liver oil. It can also be what's called skate liver oil. Skate is a fish that's kind of like a cod, I guess. It's also related to the shark family. Then the only other supplements that you might need, depending upon your diet, is that in the B vitamin area. And for that, I like the rice bran solids. And you can find them online and so forth, and just take those as a supplement if you don't get a lot of B vitamins. That covers almost all your B vitamins except 12, and if you're eating some good quality eggs and things like that, you'll get plenty of B12. Again, you have to practice good personal hygiene. I like the concept of earthing, also called grounding. And again, what that involves is simply walking with your feet in contact with the ground, especially either the grass or the wet sand by the ocean. We have advantage. We can where we live, we can do either one. But those are good because they help to replace electrons into the body, and we lose electrons all the time. That's what oxidation is. And everybody knows that antioxidants are good things, and that's the way of getting natural antioxidation into your body. I think the main thing then, besides eating right, again, trying to exercise right, and those few supplements are things that you can do. Just remember this, though. The only thing that really heals your body is your body itself. There is no medicine that can heal your body. There's not even any food that can heal your body. Even exercise doesn't heal your body. What those things can do is, through the right kind of food and the right kind of exercise, you can give your body the tools that it needs to heal itself. Because it's only God that can heal your body anyway, and He uses the things that the food that you eat. He gave us food. He gave us food, even the food that we see at the tree of life in eternity. It talks about the leaves of the tree of life being for the healing of the nations. I don't understand all that, but then again, I don't understand how the immune system works. I don't think most doctors understand the immune system as much as we think we do. I know about what they teach about the innate system and the adaptive system and all that kind of stuff, but I don't believe we really know how that thing works. But we do know that God gave us food, and that sustains our life. We also know that the air that He gave us was fresh air. He didn't give us industrialized, polluted air. He didn't give us polluted water. I think you can be pretty sure that all those streams there, the 4 streams there east of Eden and so forth, were some pretty fresh water streams. And I think that sea of life is going to be about as fresh and healthy as it can get. That's the ideal. That's what God gave us, and the closer we can get back to what He gave us, I think the better off we are. So I'm going to end this tonight. I hope everybody does well. And remember, the main thing is this. Do what you feel you have to do. Just make sure you're led by God. Let God direct you and guide you and lead you, and feel His nudge in the directions that you're going to go, and I think you're going to do fine. Don't pay any attention to me. Don't put what I say over what God seems to be telling you or what anybody else says to you. Go by what the Lord tells you to do, and I think you'll be best off. Thank you.